name's Alina Bellchambers, and I'm the author of The Order of Masks, which has just come out in Australia. I think it's been out for just over a week now, which is absolutely surreal. And it's coming out the 12th of December in the UK.
That's amazing. It's really exciting that everyone's getting their hands on copies now. Like, because I got the ARC, so I'm like, oh, I can't wait for people to read it.
Yeah, I love the reel that you did of that one. It's so lovely. And it's been so exciting to see all the pictures on social media.
What inspired the Order of the Mask of Masks?
Yeah, so that's an interesting one. I guess I actually started off writing about a mother and daughter on the run, and it really evolved from there. And it became a story where I really wanted to explore the two fierce female main characters and sort of the moral, the morally grey characters and also the complexities of the hard choices that women have to make in power. So as soon as I started writing Scarlett, I just knew she had to be the second point of view character. And then from then on, the rest of it just fell into place.
I really love the second point of view and the morally grey characters, and like that's perfect combination in a book.
Oh, thank you. I think they're really popular at the moment, aren't they, with Game of Thrones and,
Yeah.
all that sort of thing. Yeah.
Uh, what drew you to writing in the first place?
Oh, well, I grew up in my family's bookstore, which I know is a bit of a dream for a lot of readers. I was very lucky. And it was actually a mind, body, and spirit bookstore, but it had a fantasy section, like a fiction section. And I spent all my time there and I absolutely loved it. And I fell in love with books and I started making up stories and reading them out to customers. I would stop customers and read them. So my poor parents, but anyway, and then as I got older, I started writing for myself. I was actually going to do an overseas trip and I had nothing to read on the plane because I'd read pretty much everything at that point. And I thought, oh, maybe I'll just write something for myself. And that's how it all started. I wrote a 100,000 word fantasy that I read on the plane. And then I got back and I started on another fantasy. And then after that, a 600,000 word trilogy, sci-fi trilogy.
Very cool. I think we all started doing some writing when we were young, just to like get away from the world that we live in and go
Oh, it's
our own
good, isn't it?
world.
The fantasy genre, you can just escape.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm.
What was your process for writing The Order of Masks?
Sure. So I start off every single project with a pitch. It's basically like the back of the book blurb. And that just gets me excited about the story. I know that I'd want to read it if I was in a bookstore. Gives me a sense of where it would fit in the market as well. So yes, I write just that short little pitch and then I go off and I discover it as I go. So most of the time I don't plot it out too much. I like to be surprised. And I think that if the author's surprised, the reader will be surprised.
Definitely. How did you choose which character sent the story around? I know you have the two point of views. Was it through your writing that you discovered the which
Yes.
characters to focus on?
Very much so. So really started off with Mira. And, I knew she was going to be a fierce character, warrior, fights for what she believes in. So I had a sense of, what her character was going to be. But I had a couple side characters that I came up with, and one of them was Scarlett. And as I was writing the scenes with Mira and Scarlett together in the court, I just thought, oh no, like she has to be another point of view character. I love how sort of morally complex, let's say that she is. And I think her story is just quite fascinating and an interesting foil for mirrors as well.
Definitely. What's your approach to world and character building?
So I think I discover the world like the reader does, pretty much just one spot at a time. So when I was writing The Order of Masks, I discovered the elusive Isles first, sort of Eldara, where Mira begins her story. And I always knew that there was going to be this big main continent, part of the Rivalian Empire. And I knew that I wanted the Rivalian Empire to feel a little bit Roman, but not too much. I wanted it to have sort of inspiration from other cultures as well. So I had a very fun time coming up with a map for that one, as you can imagine. Um, yeah, I think my favorite part of the map was actually the really specific part for the capital city of Revalia or Revalis, which, has the arena and the higher districts, the palace, the lower districts. I thought that was just so much fun. But basically just discovered it as I went along, and then I added detail as well. And then yeah, just sort of all came together.
What about for your characters? How did you develop them?
Sure. I think I definitely start off with ideas so I know what sort of characters I'm going to have in the book, and what ones I really want to make big characters, and that sort of thing. But I do discover a lot as I write. So, and I'm sure a lot of authors say this, and it might sound strange to readers because it's, but the characters sort of take on a life of their own.
Mm.
And so I might have in the back of my mind that, oh, this is where I'm thinking Mira's story is going to go. But then as I continue writing scenes, sometimes you can tell, oh, actually, this fits Mira better. Or no, it's actually heading more in this direction. So you can be surprised and you can discover new things about the characters. And I think in a story like The Order of Masks, where there's a lot of progression sort of in the character arc as well, that's been good because I've sort of discovered as I've gone along where the characters start out and where they end up. And as you can imagine, they're put in sort of, yeah, you're laughing, you know what I mean? Quite intense situations, moral complexities for sure. And so you can imagine that they grow or, they change as characters as a result.
Yeah, definitely. They really do.
They really do, don't they? Yeah. Hmm.
Did you have a favorite moment in the book to write?
Oh, I did. I did. And I'm never sure if I can say it. So I had a book launch recently and I got asked that question. And I was like looking around the audience, can I say it? Is it spoilery? Um, I don't know, what do you think? But it's
I'll give a warning that it's spoilery.
sounds good. All right. Well, my favorite scene to write was the very first trial when Mira's tasked with stealing the crown from Cassius, a ruthless Rivalian prince. And I think, have you got to that scene?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
So what I loved about that one is I think it's got everything. It's got, intrigue, it's got action, it's got romance, like enemies to lovers kind of hint sort of thing happening. Yeah, it was lots of fun to write.
And
Mm.
it's really fun to read.
Yeah. Oh, good. That's good. I'm glad.
Which of your characters do you relate to the most and why?
Ooh, I think does that mean relate to in the sense that which characters are like me or just which characters I like writing the most?
A bit of both.
Bit of
Up to
both.
you.
Okay. So I think maybe it's a good thing to say that I don't think any of the characters are too much like me. But and I did get asked recently if I write characters that sort of like my family or if I'm inspired by, brothers and sisters in this. And I said no. But no, so I think probably Mira. I think her character arc is so relatable, and I think I feel for her, she's trying to protect her mother, she's trying to make her way in the world. She really wants to do what's right. She wants to fight for what she believes in, but she's in this really tough situation. So I think she's very relatable. Um, I love writing both Scarlet and Mira, but I have to say I always have a preference for writing villainous characters. And it doesn't mean that they're going to have a happy character arc. It doesn't mean, they're my favorite, but it's just a lot of fun because they're so unpredictable.
I guess that, and it's one of the fun things I always like to say. It's like I always ask which one it is, and like if you write a male perspective as well, it's like how do you do that with? Because I have no experience being a guy, so I'm like, how do you?
I've got another book where I wrote a male character perspective throughout the book. And that was really interesting. I had to think about it a lot, but then you just kind of get into their head and it doesn't feel all that different.
That's good. How has writing and publishing books changed the way you see yourself?
Oh, well, I think it's a dream come true, but it definitely feels good to actually be published because, I think I've spent so long putting my life on hold and writing. So I've got a degree in psychology, and I was really thinking that, oh, I'll get a stable job and I'll focus on that. But writing's my passion. It's what I want to do. And so I just sort of said to myself, look, I'm going to work 2 days in retail. I'm going to just do some other things in the side, and it's just all to support writing and then effectively write full time. And I have to admit that that does get hard when you've got friends and family sort of saying, what are you doing? How are you supporting yourself?
Mhm.
And I think I made that decision and I focused on that for about 4 years. And I was just, writing my manuscript. So I had a really nice backlog that I could then approach agents with and publishers. And so it's so amazing to feel like now, no, I am actually published and I can say that this is a career. And it just makes that sacrifice pay off a bit more. Yeah.
That's perfect. Are there any books or authors that inspired you to become a writer?
Oh, lots of them. Lots of them. Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I really like Sabriel by Garth Nix. When I was younger, that was one of the first fantasy novels that I read. And I thought she was such a strong female character at a time when there weren't as many books with strong female characters.
It's all they were always
Yeah,
boys.
yeah, right. So I think that really got me into it because I thought, oh, I want to write, stories like this. And if we're going way, way back to, I think it was reception or year one, the very first book that got me into just reading in the fantasy genre was Del Toro Quest.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, and I don't know, that just got me into it. And then from then on, I was just always getting books on my way home from school or the library. Yeah.
Always remember the Del Toro Quest books. And
Oh,
yeah,
nice. You know them too. I'm glad. They're fun, right?
they are
Yeah. Epic quests and all sorts of things.
a
Mm.
perfect fantasy world to get into when you're a child too.
Yeah, very creative.
What advice would you give to a writer working on their first book?
Ooh. I just say write. That's the number one thing that I've found helps me. Even if I'm in a position where, you've got writer's block or, you're trying to write a tricky scene, I think if you can just write, it breaks the ice. And personally, for me, if I can write every day, I feel like it's almost like muscle memory. If you're practicing for a sport, if you're writing every day, even if it's just something for fun, it just keeps your head in the game and you just really hone your skills and you just get better and better.
It's always good to write. You always find inspirations somewhere,
But
even in daily
exactly,
life.
for sure. And also add to that to read in their genre because it means you can see what works and what doesn't work, and it gives you a sense of what's marketable as well.
Well, have you been given advice that has stuck through with you across your writing?
Yeah, I think persistence, just how important persistence is. And I think my parents gave me some advice about, J.K. Rowling got 15 rejections or something like that. And I mean, in the modern day situation, don't even listen to that because there's so many more rejections than 15. But
Yeah.
I think if you're persistent and you don't give up, that's the main thing. I mean, personally, for me, I've written 7 manuscripts that I really want to get published. So they're not like the ones that I started when I was 16 just for myself. They're ones that are dedicated for that. And I'm glad that I kind of kept writing one after another before looking into querying because it means you've got a big body of work and it's like one might suit one person or one might not. So yeah.
You're always going to end up finding readers for the books no matter where.
Well, exactly. Well, that's the aim.
What's your favorite writing snack or drink?
Oh, definitely tea. I can't write without tea, and I drink way, way, way too much.
Always good to have, it's always perfect on a hot day or a cold day.
Oh, exactly. No, it's the best. And it means that you can keep typing, like you don't have to worry about like because drinking tea, I find it doesn't distract me too much, whereas if you're eating something, it does. Mm.
Do you play music while you're writing? If you do, what's your favorite music?
Yes, I have to have music. I cannot write in silence. I don't know how people do it.
No, I read.
Uh,
I have to read with something on in the background, even if it's music or the TV. It's always in the background. I need it on.
oh yeah, I'm the same. I find music a lot of the time gives me inspiration, or if I'm writing a particular scene and there's a particular mood in the music that I'm listening to, it will heighten my writing of that scene, or it will just help me to escape into the scene a lot better. So I always have to have that. I think probably my favorite songs are always dark ones. So so if people ask me, I have to say, would you want to hear what I like just casually listening to or what I like for my writing? Because the two are very different. But yeah, for my writing, I think because I always write stories with a slightly darker edge, I've got to have something with that edge. I'm
Yeah.
trying to think some examples, but pretty much on my Instagram at the moment, like a lot of the songs that I use for my pictures, my book pictures would be ones that I listen to, like Ruel, Empires, like those sorts of ones. Yeah.
And my final question is, who has been the biggest supporter of your writing?
Ooh, can I say my dog Scamp? No. She's always there. She's always there supporting me. But no, definitely. Look, my parents have been fantastic. They've been there the whole way along. But I really want to say there's two people that really stand out to me, and that's Julie Eschbar. She's my writing friend from the US, and she's also an author. And I was just so fortunate to cross paths with Julie. And it was through her that I got my agent. And also, she's just been there the whole time. And she's really fell in love with my stories and helped to champion them and just given me so much advice about the industry. So that really means a lot to me. And also, Samantha Sainsbury, who was a freelance editor that I worked with back in Australia. And yeah, that just really was so helpful because I learned a lot about the industry and being on deadlines. And yeah, her advice has always sort of stayed with me as well. But I've got lots of writing friends that I'd like to thank them all, but those two in particular. Yeah.
I really love how close and helpful all the authors are. There's no competition or anything, that you're all very supportive to each other.
I think it's so special now. And I've been surprised at just how wonderful the community is on Instagram. Like, readers like yourself, having author interviews and spotlights and really getting involved. That's fantastic. And obviously, other authors as well. Like, I was even chatting to Vanessa Len the other day, and she's just so wonderful and supportive too. I mean, there's some lovely people out there.
It definitely is.